I asked a few friends, colleagues, associates, clients what they thought was the most important legislation from property managers in the UK. What do you think the answer is? I'm going to tell you after this. Now, most of my friends and colleagues actually said they were very much wanting to look after the welfare of the tenants while they were under their management. They thought that was the most important, and they also thought that making sure they're actually allowed to be in the country was also extremely important. So there are actually government legislations which cover both of these things. So firstly, the first one is, I've got my phone here just in case, the Landlord and Tenant Act of 1985. So this ensures that the landlord has a basic level of services for the tenant. So basically, if the roof is leaking, there's no sanitation, the landlord has to deal with it. Those are the very basics of having to maintain, the property for the tenant. And the next one, which has recently been updated, or should I say implemented, is Fitness for Human Habitation Act 2018. Now, this is all about making sure the property is fit for human consumption, for human habitation. So make sure that you're actually allowed to live in the property, make sure that everything is taken care of. So this, I guess, would cover things like, noise pollution, making sure that the gas is done, electric's done, mold, condensation, what else did it say? It also says, water supply, all of the, basic utilities, making sure that a property is fit for a human to live in as opposed to rodents and all those other disgusting things. So this ensures that the property is looked after and the tenant is looked after, obviously. Then you have other legislation which covers things like EPC, gas certificates, electrical certificates for the whole property. Then you have obviously PAT certificates, which takes care of the portable electrical products in the property. And then someone else told me as well was Legionnaires. Not many people do a Legionnaire's disease survey of their properties, but this is obviously extremely important because the government put it in legislation that we need to make sure that we look after tenants, because there have been tenants who have died because the water has been, very mold, stale water has been built up in their taps and things, and they've then consumed this water and they've got very ill. And obviously with regards to mold and condensation and things like that, tenants and unfortunately children have also died because the property had these terrible pores from the mold that got into their system and they got disease from it and they died. So quite a lot of this legislation to look after tenants in the property is extremely important and very warranted. The next one is the right to rent in the UK. Now this is, I think, a very new piece of legislation which came in just before, I think, COVID 2020. This is to ensure that landlords only rent their property to people who are allowed to reside in the United Kingdom, so long as they are over 18. Now, there's obviously quite a lot of people coming and going within the UK. We're very multicultural, very international. There's so much people here from outside who weren't necessarily born in the UK, come to live in the UK and reside here. And we're obviously, as a people, able to experience their cultures and their, their languages and their foods. The food. But anyway, we need to make sure as a property manager and a landlord that they're legally allowed to be in the country, because with this specific legislation, if a landlord is renting a property to a person who is not legally allowed to be in the country, they themselves, the landlord, can possibly get a very large fine or actually imprisonment. So this is a very, very important piece of legislation which cannot be ignored. There's obviously certain procedures that have to take place in order to make sure that a person is allowed to legally be here, but that's for another video. Now, the Tenant Fees Act of 2019 was to ensure that the tenants are not charged exuberant amount of money for, all sorts of property management fees. For example, lots of property management agencies were charging excessive amounts of money to tenants in order to, onboard them onto their agency, and, moving in charges, reference charges, all these sorts of things. So the government took away pretty much all all, quite a lot of tenant fees, so that tenants don't necessarily have to pay a great deal of money now in order to live, or even the opportunity to rent a property in the UK. We can pretty much get a holding fee, and that's pretty much kind of it with regards to kind of fees that property management agents can get. Just thought I'd double check my notes here. But unfortunately, because of this new act, rents have obviously gone up, because landlords want to obviously, get their money back from this specific clause being taken away, and property management agents' fees have gone up to landlords because obviously this fee was taken away. So sometimes when legislations come in, there's kind of repercussions on the other side. The Housing Act of 2004 obviously has been around for quite a long time. This specific act deals with the deposits. Well, there's obviously other bits about it, but what I'm talking about specifically is the deposits of the tenants. Now, most of these laws and things that I'll be talking about is mainly to do with, the welfare of the tenants. This again is to do with the welfare of the tenants. Lots of property management agents and landlords have, taken deposits from tenants, sometimes, 10 weeks deposits, excessive amounts of deposits for looking after the property if they make any damages. Now, it's actually been curbed down to five weeks worth of cash deposits now. Basically, the deposit schemes is all about looking after the landlords as well as the tenants. So if there are some tenants who have trashed properties and not done what they were meant to do, and the wonderful thing about the deposits is the deposits can then pay, hopefully, for rent arrears and for any damages to the property. Now, how it protects the tenants is the money has been saved with government issued companies, so that their money is being put into these specific government companies, and at the end of their tenancy they have an opportunity to either get all of their money back or get part of their money back because of hopefully a very good inventory detailing the property before and after. So the Housing Act is a very good legislation. Hi, in case you're not aware, my name is Tanya. I'm a property virtual assistant and online business manager. I work with lots of property managers, letting agents, real estate agents and mortgage brokers within the property industry, as well as other property professionals. I work behind the scenes of their business, taking care of their administrative tasks, their customer service tasks, while they are able to concentrate on money generating tasks. So if this is something you're interested, please send me an email. My name is tanya@clearviewadministration.co.uk. Smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide inhalation is absolutely awful. Lots of tenants have died from this piece of from not having this legislation enacted before now. So this legislation is a smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, England Regulations 2015. Unfortunately, lots of people have lost their lives previously because boilers were not serviced accurately. They were letting out all these specific fumes. Gas hobs were not looked after properly. So again, they were letting out gas fumes, and all sorts of things were taking place that landlords and unfortunately property managers were able to get away with when they were taking care of properties. So now obviously with this piece of legislation, there's specific alarms in the properties where if it's a single let, then obviously the tenants have to maintain it and look after it, put batteries in it. And if HMO property, then specific staff have to come and service these pieces of equipment, the alarm system, the battery operated alarm systems and the mains operated alarm systems, to make sure that the tenants in the property are safe. Every property management company is different. They all run completely differently. So this piece of information, which every tenant has to receive before they start their tenancy, and also what I talked about in a video yesterday was the How to Rent guide by the government. This piece of information is so important for all people who have probably never rented a property before, or who have rented a property before and want to make sure that their landlord or their property manager is doing things properly. In this specific document, it will tell the tenant as to how they should go about looking for a property, what happens when they found a property, what happens when they've moved into a property, what happens when they decide to leave a property, or what happens if they are asked to leave a property because they're being evicted. It goes through every single process that is required for living in rented accommodation. Now, this is really good because it lets tenants know their actual responsibilities and the landlord's responsibilities. It kind of really sets those standards for what is required when they have a rental property, and this is extremely beneficial for the tenants in the property. I really hope today's video wasn't exactly too boring for you. There is quite a lot of legislation in the property rental property market in the UK. Really appreciate it if you subscribe to today's video and subscribe to all my videos, to be honest with you. You don't have to press a notification bell because YouTube do a wonderful job of notifying you anyway. So my name is Tanya and I look forward to speaking with you next time. Bye.